What's going on, boys? Today we're talking a bit about NI. Not how it works, but about how it looks or seems to work to an any type. One of the simplest and most useful explanations of how NI looks to people comes from Michael Pierce in his library example. An SI type and an NI type are reading books together at the same table in the library. Someone jumps out at them, yells, and runs away. The SI type goes, "That was weird," and goes back to whatever they were doing. The NI type goes, "That's strange. I wonder what led to that happening." The SI type files that instance away as one instance of data. The NI type supposes that one instance of data is actually one piece of many other unseen pieces of data, and they'll try to reconstruct the entire image leading to that one point, where again the SI type files that one thing away as one thing. Now, when I first heard that example, it confused me because it didn't explain the SI side in full, and this video is about how NI looks to NE types, or rather SI types, so we'll add another example, more SI focused this time. NI and SI are in a room together, and neither has ever heard or seen anything regarding a tree. They have no idea what a tree is. Researchers show SI a picture of a tree and ask them what they think it is. SI says, "I don't know. I have no frame of reference for this." If NE is a web, then SI is a frame. Frames of reference. If you told SI what a tree was, let them feel some leaves, showed them other pictures of other trees, let them spend time around trees, they would say, "That's a tree," based on all the images and experiences of other trees. This image is probably this compared against all those. But if they don't have those frames of reference, what they're seeing means nothing. It becomes one instance that will be compared against something else, but currently means nothing, because there's nothing to compare it against. In Pierce's library example, if the person jumped out one time and that was it, it would never mean anything. But if it happened a few times, eventually SI is going to get paranoid and start looking for signs of when that person is going to jump out, because they always jump out. When they jump out, there are these signs based on these experiences. And again, because we're discussing how NI looks to any SI types, if that person keeps on jumping out at them in the library, the SI type is going to get confused and frustrated when the NI type isn't immediately suspecting a jumper outer the moment they're anywhere near a library. Do you not remember the last 5 times this dude jumped out at us? And the NI type goes, "What's going on with you? What are you talking about? You sound insane." A common take I hear is NI lacks memory, but that isn't the case. What it seems to be to SI types is a disconcerting lack of a frame of reference. So back to the room and tree example. Researchers show NI the picture of the tree, and NI says, "That means the governor is going to die tomorrow." And the SI DOM researchers go, "No." The NE DOM researchers go, "Well, what do you mean, maybe? Is it? Is that what it means?" And the NI tertiary types go, "No, that's not what it means at all." And then they draw a circle around the tree, and then they go, "Now it means the governor is going to die tomorrow." And again, this is not how NI works, it's how it looks. When an NI type makes a prediction, it's unsettling to SI types because it's so far outside any frame of reference an SI type has. And it's disturbing to think people who think this way without a frame of reference exist. Remember, SI is far and away the most common or selected for human function. To us, most NI predictions are going to sound ridiculous, and the higher NI is in someone's stack, the more those predictions are what they base their actions around, which is even more disturbing. You'll notice INFJs almost never share their true thoughts with anyone. That used to confuse me until I got a chance to see an INFJ's unfiltered thoughts, and one, they're going to confuse people, and two, they're going to be judged for it, and they're going to feel it because their FE is so high for them. And when I say confuse, I don't just mean cryptic, I mean, how were you thinking about this when this was going on, and why is that so important? The frame of reference is completely gone. Completely gone. Like, imagine you get in a car crash, you and INFJ crawl out and are standing there on the side of the road watching your car burn down, you're both injured, INFJ is looking thoughtful, and you ask what they're thinking about, and they say, "Don't you think it's weird how clowns' shoes are really big? And who even makes clowns' pants? What are you talking about?" I know you wouldn't be talking about this if it weren't important. How does clowns' pants have anything to do with this thing we just went through? But again, NIDOM, they keep whatever that is so under lock and key, floating around on FE, or using FE. In the meantime, it's a curiosity, but not a concern. NTJs are where the concerns come in. They aren't just floating around without a frame of reference. They are taking actions without a frame of reference. And if most of the population realize that's what's happening, it's going to disturb them. It disturbs me still. This is hard to explain, so we'll break it into a few parts. Firstly, the most concerning thing is going to be what I just mentioned, for most people. That someone is taking actions without long math. Two, no surprises, a lot of the times NI types are wrong about things, but that isn't what's deeply concerning. Three, NI types get some things right, but their math is wrong. Example, I was speaking with an ENTJ. Out of nowhere he goes, "You're really clumsy, aren't you?" And I say, "Yes, I am. How did you know?" He explains, "There is a dent in the toe of my boot, and what happened was I was working at an automotive shop, I dropped something heavy on my boot, and dented it. That's how it got dented. Only a clumsy person would do that." And I explained to him, I've never worked in an automotive shop. These are not steel toe boots that dent that way. And in fact, I've never dropped anything that heavy on my foot like that. But I am clumsy. And my explanations after that didn't matter to him. He thought I was clumsy, and I was. So how he got there doesn't matter. But it does matter. If your math is bad, you can't ensure you'll get correct solutions in the future. And when you do end up with a bad solution and an incorrect one, there's nothing you can do to resolve it. That's especially dangerous when you're dealing with TE types. By nature, they are going to impose something on someone at some point. If they can't build a frame of reference, or won't reason with one, believe frames of reference don't exist or don't matter, they're going to fuck someone over on a trust me bro hunch. And on a smaller scale, with the same person, that's exactly what happened. He got obsessed with the idea that I was gay, and nothing I could do could prove my heterosexuality to him. The girl he was dating, an INTJ, hated me before she even met me. Got obsessed with the idea I was going to break them up. started doing insane shit, started treating him poorly, started threatening me. No matter how much I explained their relationship doesn't matter to me, until it became too much trouble, too risky to be around them. That's why NI can look like insanity to SI types. Taking one thing, building a complete story around it that has no basis in reality, and then treating it like reality. Other examples of what I'm talking about. To type someone seriously, you need to be able to see them. One of my favorite methods for checking for NI is looking away from them at a wall beside them or behind them. An NI type almost always will assume you're doing that for a reason, and they'll look, or they'll ask, because to them, everything has a meaning. If you look in my ENTJs Are Delicate videos comments, you'll see ENTJs assume I hate them, build an entire narrative of my relationship with this one ENTJ, down to the thumbnail picture I used, treating it as fact, and using it to explain why they think I hate ENTJs. When in reality, I like ENTJs, and that was supposed to be a video positive, really positive on them. I chose the picture because it looked depressed, which most ENTJs I've met are, and 3, there were like 5 different narratives that all were wrong based on little pieces of a larger whole, roping in disconnected things, misinterpreting things, and being completely wrong. And all those were for a YouTube video. Can you imagine what that would be like if someone's life were at stake? That's where, for SI types, the fear comes in. More examples. One ENTJ thought I was sending her specifically, never met her, coded messages in my videos, and she started stalking me. I loaned an ENTJ a book in university. It happened to have a dog ear in it. She thought the message on the page was a coded message of some kind. When I was going back to university to get my master's, an ENTJ I deeply loved had a vision of me meeting someone new. She got depressed and angry about it. ENTJ I mentioned before in the ENTJs Are Delicate video. One of our professors had a man bun. That must mean he's a communist. She's a monarchist. He's trying to get her somehow and fail her, so she's going to try to get him fired. When in reality, dude, ENFP, one of the only good people I've met on the planet, is doing everything in his power not to help her pass, but to help her get an A. She thought he was out to get her because he wasn't giving her an A, when in reality, her writing just sucked. It sucked. And that's not even the only instance of that. ENTJ dude I mentioned threatened one of my golden professors, the old goat, because he failed one of his assignments. And he failed it because it sucked. You can't accept your writing is bad, so you invent a conspiracy and an enemy and then threaten an old man in front of me. With NI types, you can never predict what they're going to key into, but they will get obsessed with something. They'll take one piece of information, then turn it into an entire narrative. And if that narrative is wrong, there is nothing you can do to correct it. Presenting facts doesn't work because they didn't use facts to get where they are. Using precedent or a track record doesn't work because they don't have one and they absolutely do not trust yours. And once you're aware of the way NI works, if you're an SI type, it starts getting you paranoid. Because one, as I mentioned earlier, even though NI types don't have long math, sometimes they're right. But more importantly, sometimes when they're right, they are extremely right, uncannily right. How did you get this right? And that creates a precedent for you, a hesitation to question them. At least for me anyway, because some of the hyper insights from NI types I've received makes me not want to screw with their process. Because if something produces gold 5% of the time, I want to keep that chance alive as long as possible. But you also have to deal with the 95% chance. Within that 95% chance of being wrong, there is the chance of something really bad happening. It makes you paranoid about everything you do and say, knowing an NI type will take something you say, build a false story out of it, then do things to you according to the story in their head. Example I was thinking about: my ENTJ Amazon review video. When I'm considering making it, I'm thinking, I'll bet most SI types who watch that video will respond, hee hee, silly ENTJ. Because they will file it under joke related to what my frame of reference for an ENTJ is. But I'll bet NI types who watch the video will think, why is Skimmerlet looking up screaming jars? You develop a sense for NI bait. There's a pattern to what they'll fixate on I haven't ironed out yet. But it is something to be aware of if you're going to be dealing with them. They also tend to put down NE the same way I'm putting down NI. With NJs, at least, it's more than just lacking a frame of reference. It is enjoying disregarding frames of reference. I know this thing threatened my marriage, but that thing isn't this thing, so there's no way that thing could threaten my marriage. Or, I know someone's jumped out at us from behind bookcases 5 other times, but thinking it's going to happen this time, you're crazy. You're paranoid. What's going on with you? And maybe the NI type is right this time, but there's a reason SI is overwhelmingly the more common function. I'm adding an image you might find useful you can review as I summarize. How NI looks to SI types. NI lacks a frame of reference and will spit on yours. Unfiltered NI is so strange it's unsettling, especially considering a small portion of the population uses it to base all their decisions. NI isolates one piece of information, then tries to construct an entire image using only that piece of information. When NI is wrong, it feels like no shit. When NI is a little right, it's uncomfortable because you know it easily could have been wrong. When NI is very right, it is so right, you can't throw NI as a whole away. It's now proven itself useful and become part of your frame of reference, even though it still makes no sense. NI types lack object permanence. The few times in their life they'll remember anything that happened 5 minutes earlier, they will disregard because it isn't happening right now. Therefore, it cannot be connected to anything else. SPs bug SI types because they sometimes act like they actually are, like what I just mentioned. And TJs bug SI types because they are taking actions based on what we think is nothing. And NFJs bug SI types because they're doing the same thing as NTJs, but they aren't telling you they're doing it. And there seems to be a pattern to what NI types will fixate on, but it's hard to figure out. I'll let you know when I have more. NI can do the top right, and when it does, it's one of the most valuable functions, but in my experience, it's more like an NI type looks at a petal, says this is a feather, and then spends all your money on an air fryer. But that about rippity wraps this one up. I hope you enjoyed watching, because I certainly enjoyed making it. I didn't mean for this one to come across as a shitting on NI video, but damn do I really dislike that function when it's used improperly, and most of the time it is. Like if you enjoyed, because it helps me out a lot. Subscribe if you haven't, because we do this shit sometimes, and comment your thoughts, because I love hearing from you. Give us your NI take. SI, NI, whatever you are. Love to hear it. Why does NI work like that when it's working improperly? And how best can we SI types correct your insanity? God, tell me. But thanks again for watching, everybody. Really, we have a lot of fun on this channel. So much fun, in fact, you can put it in a plastic bag. A couple plastic bags. And wrap it up and sit it on a chair. And just have it stare at you. Menacingly. And that's how much we have on this channel. And I look forward to doing this with you guys again in the future.